Now this is class. To be young and elegant, my husband, Ethan, shouted as he wrapped his arm around another woman right in front of me at the luxurious restaurant where we used to celebrate our special moments. I just managed a faint smile. Inside, it felt like my heart was being squeezed with immense force. He had invited me on purpose, not for a reconciliation, but for a parade of humiliations. Not like you, who's only good for staying at home, he continued in a dismissive tone. But Ethan didn't know anything. Under the table, my hands were busy opening my banking app. 1 click, 2 clicks, 3 clicks, and in a matter of seconds, all of his credit cards were blocked. An hour later, when he arrogantly called the waiter to pay a bill of thousands of dollars, his face turned pale as wax when the card reader emitted the unmistakable beep, "Transaction denied." And it was at that precise moment that I started to breathe again. That morning, the notification of a message sounded on my phone at exactly 9 a.m. I was preparing breakfast in the kitchen of our penthouse. A penthouse that for 3 months had felt like a ghost house because Ethan hardly ever came home. I took the phone out of my apron pocket. The screen showed the name Ethan, husband, with a terse message that made me frown. Lunch today, 1:30 p.m. at the Sterling View. No emojis, no word of affection, no "I love you" like before. Not even a question or a request, just a dry command that felt completely alien. I stared at the screen for a long time, trying to decipher what it meant. The Sterling View, a fine dining restaurant in the heart of the Upper East Side. A place we only visited for our anniversaries or to celebrate Ethan's business achievements. Why was he summoning me there all of a sudden? Today wasn't a special day. It wasn't our wedding anniversary, nor was it my birthday or his. I tried to reply to his message. What are we celebrating? But 3 minutes passed with no response. 5 minutes, 10 minutes. He still didn't answer. I knew Ethan was online because his status showed last seen today at 9:05 a.m., but he chose to ignore me, as had become his custom lately. For the past 4 months, Ethan had changed completely. The man who used to always come home on time, who every day would ask, "Have you eaten yet, honey?" Who always hugged me before sleep, had become a cold, indifferent stranger. His excuses were always the same: a huge project, an important meeting, clients from out of town. I tried to understand. I strived to be a supportive wife, but over time, I felt a chasm opening between us. Even the night before, he hadn't come home. He just sent a brief message at 11 p.m. Late meeting. Staying at a hotel near the office. I didn't ask any more questions. I was tired of arguing. Every time I tried to communicate my feelings, Ethan accused me of being too sensitive, of exaggerating, of being possessive. But today, he had invited me to lunch at a special place. Maybe he wanted to fix our relationship. Maybe he had realized we had been living like strangers under the same roof for too long. A small flame of hope began to burn in my chest. Although something unsettled me, an intuition whispering that something was not right, I decided to prepare myself thoroughly. If this was a chance to save our marriage, I didn't want to waste it. I opened the closet and chose my favorite cream-colored midi dress, the one Ethan always complimented. "You look stunning in this dress," he used to tell me. I paired it with a tailored navy blue blazer and 3-inch stilettos. Discreet makeup, my hair pulled back in a polished low bun, and the high-end leather handbag Ethan gave me on our 2nd anniversary. I wanted to be perfect for him. Before leaving, I looked at myself in the large mirror in the foyer. A 32-year-old woman with a slightly tired look stared back at me. When was the last time I felt beautiful? When was the last time Ethan looked at me with that old admiration? I shook my head, chasing away the negative thoughts. Today would be different. Today we would start over. The drive to the Sterling View took 20 minutes. Along the way, I tried calling Ethan several times, but he didn't answer. I sent him a message. "I'm on my way. See you there." But only one checkmark appeared. It hadn't even been delivered properly. For some reason, that bad feeling grew stronger. When my car pulled into the restaurant's parking lot, my heart began to beat faster. The Sterling View stood majestically with its classic architecture, large windows with velvet curtains, and a luxurious carved wooden door. A valet immediately approached, opening my door courteously. "Good afternoon, ma'am," "Welcome to the Sterling View." I stepped inside and was greeted by the delicate scent of scented candles and a soft melody of classical music. The interior of the restaurant had always fascinated me. A huge crystal chandelier hung from the ceiling, tables with pristine white linen tablecloths, velvet chairs, and fresh floral arrangements in every corner. It was the place where the wealthy celebrated their successes, the place where every dish was a work of art. "Good afternoon, do you have a reservation?" asked the maitre d', dressed in an elegant black uniform with a professional smile. "Ethan Hamilton," I replied. He consulted his tablet and nodded. "Ah, yes, Mr. Hamilton has already arrived. This way, please." He's already arrived. That meant he had come early. Maybe he was really taking this lunch seriously. Maybe he had prepared something special. Hope began to grow again, overcoming all the doubts that had assailed me. We walked between the tables, passing diners who conversed in low voices while enjoying their meals. And then I saw him. Ethan was sitting at our usual table, in a corner by the large window. He was wearing a white long-sleeved shirt with the gold cufflinks I had given him, black dress pants, and the Swiss watch he always boasted about. But something was wrong. He wasn't alone. Sitting next to him was a young woman with long, wavy, ash-blonde hair. She wore a tight red dress that highlighted every curve of her body. Multiple gold jewelry pieces adorned her neck, wrists, and fingers. Her makeup was heavy, bright red lips, highlighter that made her cheekbones shine, and dramatic eyelash extensions. She was laughing at something, and her hand was brushing against Ethan's arm with a gesture too intimate for a mere business colleague. And Ethan was smiling. A smile I hadn't seen in a long time. A smile that used to be only for me. My steps came to a dead halt. I couldn't breathe. The maitre d's hand was still extended, indicating the table, but I couldn't move. "Ma'am," he called, a hint of concern in his voice. Ethan looked up and saw me. There was no guilt in his eyes, no surprise, no panic. Just an indifferent gaze, as if my arrival was something he had already planned, as if this was all part of a script he had written, and that's when I realized it. This wasn't an invitation to reconcile. It was an invitation to my execution. I forced myself to move forward, though each step felt like walking on broken glass. The maitre d' guided me to the table. That table, once filled with happy memories, had now become the stage for my firing squad. Ethan didn't get up from his chair. He remained seated, relaxed, with one hand resting possessively on the back of the woman's chair. "Ah, you finally made it," Ethan said with a neutral tone that sounded like a slap in the face. No warm smile, no affectionate greeting, just a cold acknowledgement, as if I were a guest arriving late to an unimportant event. The woman beside him turned and scrutinized me from head to toe with critical eyes. Her brightly painted red lips curved into a small smirk, a smile that didn't reach her eyes, a smile that hid a million condescending meanings. "Please have a seat, ma'am." The maitre d' pulled out the chair for me, a position that forced me to face a scene I did not wish to see. I sat down slowly, placing my handbag on my lap. I clutched the handle tightly, as if it were the only thing that could keep me from falling apart right there. "Amelia, let me introduce you," Ethan said in a formal tone, as if introducing a new business partner. "This is Madison Sloan. Madison, this is Amelia, my wife. Well, my future ex-wife." Future ex-wife. Those words stabbed me deeper than any knife. I looked at Ethan, searching for a sign that this was all a nightmare, that the man before me was not the Ethan who had sworn eternal love to me in front of our families, the one who had cried with joy when I accepted his proposal, the one who had told me I was the only woman he would ever love. But the eyes that met mine were those of a stranger, cold, empty, without the slightest hint of remorse. "Hi, Amelia," Madison greeted with a deliberately sweet, almost cloying voice. "Ethan has told me so much about you. It's a pleasure to finally meet you. He's told me so much about you." That meant they had talked about me often. Who knows what Ethan had told this woman about me, and for some reason, that thought crushed my chest even more. "A pleasure," I replied dryly. My voice was barely a whisper. I didn't know what else to say. My brain seemed to have shut down, trying to process this absurd situation without success. Ethan picked up the menu that was already open on the table, not giving me a second to absorb the shock. "Let's order. Madison, what are you in the mood for?" Don't hold back. Order whatever you want. It's my treat today." Madison let out a silly giggle, touching Ethan's arm with a flirtatious gesture. "Oh, Ethan, you're so generous. Well, I think I'll have the lobster thermidor and the pasta with truffles." "Oh, and what's the best wine here?" "A 2009 Chateau Margaux," Ethan replied, with an enthusiasm he never used with me anymore. "It's expensive, but it's worth it. We'll get a bottle for the two of us. For the two of them, not the three of us." I just sat there like a statue, an uninvited spectator at their painful show. A waiter approached and took their order in great detail. Lobster thermidor, pasta with black truffle, wagyu steak, foie gras, several luxurious appetizers whose names I didn't even recognize, and a bottle of wine whose price could cover a month's rent. "And for the lady?" The waiter addressed me politely. "A glass of water, please," I replied in a low voice. Ethan scoffed. "Water, Amelia? This is a Michelin-starred restaurant, not a diner. Order something decent. Don't embarrass me." "Don't let me embarrass him," I thought. "Him. Oh, leave her be," Madison interrupted with an air of false wisdom. "Maybe she's on a diet or something. Intermittent fasting is all the rage now. They say it works wonders for those who are, well, getting on in years." Getting on in years. I was 32, and this woman, who didn't look a day over 25, already considered me old. The waiter nodded uncomfortably, jotted down my simple glass of water, and hurried away, as if not wanting to be caught in the tension that was palpable at the table. As soon as the waiter left, Ethan leaned back in his chair and looked at me with an unreadable expression. There was a mix of satisfaction, triumph, and something darker, as if he were enjoying every second of my suffering. "Well, Amelia," he began in a relaxed tone, as if we were discussing the weather, "I invited you here because I think you have the right to hear it from me. Better you find out this way than from others, or by snooping around like you've been doing lately." Snooping. I had never snooped on him. I had only tried to call my own husband because he never came home. "Madison and I have been together for almost 6 months, Ethan continued, taking Madison's hand on the table in a possessively intimate gesture. "And I'm convinced she's the perfect woman for me. That's why I'm going to file for our divorce as soon as possible." 6 months. That meant it started right when he stopped coming home, when he began to grow cold toward me. Right when I started to feel something had changed, and he insisted I was being paranoid. "Look at Madison. She's beautiful, young, she has class," Ethan said, praising her in front of me as if I were nothing. "She has an incredible sense of style. She always knows the trendiest spots. She's social, fun, not like you, who, well, you know. You only know how to stay at home. You never bother to improve yourself. Same old thing every day. You're boring. An absolute drag." Every word that came out of his mouth was a poison that was slowly killing me from the inside. Me, who had always supported his career, who gave up my own job when he told me he needed a wife who focused on the home. Me, who always made sure he had everything he needed. Now he was calling me boring, stagnant, a housewife. Madison smiled, satisfied, and possessively caressed Ethan's arm. "It's just that Ethan and I have the same vibe, you know? We like the same things, we have the same hobbies, the same circle of friends. That's why we connected from the very beginning. Right, my love?" "Absolutely," Ethan replied, looking at her with the same devotion he once used to look at me. "That's why I'm sure she's the one. And you, well, you were the wrong choice I made in the past." The wrong choice. That's what he called me. 7 years of marriage. 7 years in which I loved him with all my heart. 7 years building a life together. And now he was saying I was a wrong choice. I felt my phone vibrate inside my handbag. With trembling hands, I picked it up. It was a notification from our banking app, from the joint account we created for our family funds, for our future, for the children we planned to have. The balance in there was also the fruit of my hard work, from years of savings we had accumulated together. And in that instant, something inside me changed. It was no longer sadness that I felt, nor the pain that dominated me. It was something colder, sharper, a rage that slowly turned into determination. I looked at Ethan and Madison, busy laughing and planning their future, as if I were a mere spectator. I saw how Ethan was discarding me so easily after everything I had given him. I saw how Madison looked at me with disdain, as if I were a used, worthless object. And I decided I was not going to cry here. I would not give them the satisfaction of seeing me broken. I was going to make them regret this. Slowly, I opened my handbag on my lap, making sure no one could see me. My fingers opened the banking app. The screen showed the dashboard with our joint account, its balance enough to make anyone smile, the result of investments, Ethan's bonuses, and money from my job before I quit. I looked at the couple in front of me, still absorbed in their own world. Then, with a deep breath, I began to type. The real show was about to begin. The waiter arrived with a large tray carrying the first appetizer, foie gras served with an artistic plating decorated with edible gold leaf and a red berry reduction that shimmered under the chandelier light. The aroma was exquisite, the presentation perfect, like a work of art too beautiful to be eaten. But to me, it all had no taste. "Wow, it's here!" Madison exclaimed, clapping her hands softly with enthusiasm. Her eyes sparkled at the sight of the luxurious dish. "Ethan, you know I absolutely love foie gras. You're the best." Ethan beamed from ear to ear, puffing out his chest with pride. "Of course, I've memorized your tastes already. Not like some people who, after 7 years together, still don't get what I'm in the mood for." He shot a sideways glance at me as he said the last sentence, a blatant jab meant for me. I simply stared at my glass of water, trying to maintain a neutral expression despite the storm raging inside me. "Try some, my love," Madison said, feeding Ethan with a small fork, a gesture so intimate and brazen it was, as if I weren't there. Ethan opened his mouth and accepted the bite, looking at Madison with an expression that turned my stomach. "It's delicious," he said after swallowing. "See? This is an attentive woman. She feeds you, she cares. She doesn't just wait to be served." I gripped my phone tighter in my lap. The banking app was already open, displaying the list of accounts and credit cards linked to Ethan's main account. They were all in his name, but I had full access as a co-owner, an access he himself had granted me years ago, when we were still happy, when he trusted me completely. "Hey, Amelia," Madison suddenly addressed me. Her voice sounded friendly, but her eyes held a mocking sneer. "I'm curious, what do you do all day at home? I mean, Ethan works from morning till night, he must come home exhausted, and then at home, nobody understands him. So now it was my fault. I, who every day made sure the house was immaculate, the food was ready, and all of Ethan's needs were met, now it turned out I didn't understand him." "Madison, don't be like that," Ethan said in a tone that was meant to be conciliatory, but I knew it was pure facade. "Amelia has tried. The thing is, her effort isn't enough for me. I need more than a housewife who only knows how to cook and clean." "Oh, I see." Madison nodded with an air of superiority. "No wonder Ethan gets so stressed. At home, he has no one to talk to about more intellectual topics, right? That's why he feels so comfortable with me. We can talk about business, investments, travel, all the more adult and elegant things." Elegant. That word again. The woman sitting there in a too tight red dress, with jewelry too flashy and makeup too garish, was talking to me about elegance. The waiter returned, this time with the main courses: lobster thermidor with a steaming butter sauce, truffle pasta sprinkled with premium Parmesan, and a perfectly seared Wagyu steak. Each dish was presented with flair, decorated with microgreens and artistic sauces. "Is all of this just for you two?" I finally said, unable to hold back any longer. Ethan looked at me with a raised eyebrow. "Why? Do you want some?" "Oh no, sorry. You said you only wanted water. Besides, it's my money. I can spend it on whoever I want." His money, he said, when half the money in that joint account came from my job before I quit, when half of the investments we built were my idea and contribution. But now he claimed it all as his. "Well, yeah," Madison intervened, while delicately cutting into her lobster. "Besides, it looks like Amelia is watching her figure, which makes sense. At her age, you have to start worrying more about your physique, especially when things start to sag everywhere." She didn't finish the sentence, but the insinuation was crystal clear. A humiliation disguised as concern. The classic tactic of a homewrecker. "Madison, you're so clever with your words," Ethan laughed. "Diplomatic but direct. That's a smart woman. Not like those who just sulk in silence when there's a problem." They both laughed. The sound of their laughter made some diners at the next table turn to look. I could feel their curious glances on us. I could hear the whispers starting to circulate. But Ethan and Madison didn't care, or perhaps they even enjoyed the attention. Under the table, my fingers began to move. I opened the transfer menu in the banking app and entered my personal account number, an account Ethan knew nothing about. I had opened it secretly 3 months ago when I started to feel something was wrong in our marriage. The total balance of the joint account: $75,250, not a small amount. It was the fruit of years of work, of Ethan's bonuses, and of the money from the sale of my old car. My hand trembled slightly as I typed in the amount to transfer, but I no longer cared. They wanted to play? Fine, I would play too. "Hey, Ethan," Madison called out suddenly in a syrupy voice. "After lunch, let's go shopping downtown. I want to see that handbag you told me about at the Madison Avenue boutique. They say they have a limited edition collection." "Of course, my love," Ethan replied without a second thought. "Buy whatever you want. Consider it a gift for being so patient with me all this time." Patience. 6 months of infidelity, and now she was getting a prize for her patience. While I, who had been faithful to him for 7 years, who sacrificed my career and always supported him, was being humiliated to his face. "Ethan, you're so good to me. Not like my ex, who was a total cheapskate." He calculated everything, even when taking me out to dinner, Madison said as she dabbed the corner of her lips with a linen napkin. "That's why I love you so much. You're the kind of man with real class, who knows how to treat a woman." Class. That word again. "Don't worry, Madison," Ethan said as he poured her more wine. The deep red liquid shone under the light like slowly spilled blood. "As long as you're with me, you'll have the best. You won't lack for anything. Money, unlimited credit cards, trips abroad whenever you want. This is the life, not the mediocrity, that I've been living until now." Mediocrity. The life we built for 7 years was mediocrity. Really? Unlimited? Madison's eyes sparkled. "Ethan, are you sure? Because my wish list is incredibly long." "Absolutely sure. Besides, soon my business with her will be settled," he said, shooting me a cold glance. "The divorce won't take long. I've already spoken with the lawyer. The papers are ready. In a month or 2, it will all be over, and then we can move on to the next phase." The next phase. They had already planned everything. Their wedding, their life, their future, while I was just an obstacle to be removed. "Amelia," Ethan called me, in a tone as if he were the most rational person in the conversation. "I hope you'll cooperate with the divorce process. Don't make it complicated. You can have the house and the car you use now. I'll take the rest of the assets. Fair, right?" Fair. The house, worth less than $300,000, while he kept the investment penthouse, the stocks, the savings, and all other assets valued in the millions. Or what? Do you want some kind of settlement? Fine. I'll give you $50,000, enough for you to live on for a few years. Consider it a thank you for being my wife for 7 years, even if it wasn't anything to write home about. $50,000. He thought 7 years of my life were worth only $50,000. Madison leaned toward Ethan and whispered, but loud enough for me to hear, "Honey, you're being too good to her, giving her that settlement. If it were me, $10,000 would be more than enough. After all, she contributed nothing but being a simple housewife." They both laughed again, a sound that shattered the last remnants of hope left in my heart. I had heard enough. I had endured enough. My finger pressed the transfer button on the phone's screen. $75,250 left the joint account and entered my personal account. The confirmation notification appeared. Transfer successful. Then, I opened the credit card menu. 5 additional credit cards in Ethan's name, all linked to the main account that I controlled. The total limit amounted to $120,000, the cards he used for all his luxury transactions, including today's lunch. One by one, I blocked them all. Click. Card ending in 4,521 has been blocked. Click. Card ending in 7,834 has been blocked. Click. Card ending in 2156 has been blocked. Click. Card ending in 9,807 has been blocked. Click. Card ending in 3,342 has been blocked. Done. I looked up and saw the couple in front of me, still busy enjoying their meal, planning their luxurious life, and laughing at my expense. Then I smiled. A faint but genuine smile, for the first time since I sat down at that table. "Congratulations," I said in a calm voice. "Congratulations to you both. May you be very happy." I stood up from my chair, picked up my handbag with elegance, making sure every movement appeared serene and distinguished, far more distinguished than the woman sitting across from me in her flashy red dress. "Where are you going?" Ethan asked indifferently, without even looking up from his plate. "Home," I replied briefly. "Enjoy your meal." "Oh, and I don't think you're finished yet." The waiter said there's still dessert and a second bottle of wine. "Order whatever you want. Today is a special day." Madison looked at me, confused. "Why are you being so nice all of a sudden?" I just smiled again. Then I turned and walked away with my head held high, my back straight, and my heart, for the first time in months, a little bit lighter. Because I knew that in an hour, the real show would begin, and I couldn't wait to see their faces when their world came crashing down. I walked firmly between the tables. Though my heart was pounding, every step away from that table felt like a liberation, as if a huge weight was being lifted from my shoulders. Some diners glanced at me, perhaps sensing that something strange had happened at that corner table, but I didn't care. I kept walking with my head held high. The maitre d' who had seated me was standing near the entrance. His face showed concern when he saw me. "Ma'am, can I help you with anything?" he asked cautiously. "No, thank you," I replied with a faint smile. "Everything is fine. I just need to get some fresh air." He nodded, though he seemed skeptical. I stepped out of the restaurant and was greeted by a pleasant afternoon breeze. The valet immediately approached to bring my car, but I shook my head. "Just a moment. I'll wait here." I walked to a small garden next to the restaurant building, a quiet corner with a wooden bench and well-kept plants. The perfect place to calm myself and finish what I had started. Sitting on the bench, I took out my phone. The screen still showed the banking app with the transfer successful notification, which gave me a sense of relief, of satisfaction, or perhaps a mixture of emotions I couldn't define. But I wasn't done yet. I opened the accounts menu again to review every detail. The joint account, which previously held $75,250, now showed a balance of $4.73. Only pocket change from fees and forgotten small transactions remained. The rest was now safe in my personal account. Then I opened the credit card history. The 5 cards that were previously active were now listed as temporarily blocked by the primary account holder. The cards Ethan relied on for his luxurious lifestyle, the ones he used to buy gifts for Madison, to dine at expensive restaurants, to stay in 5-star hotels when he claimed to have late meetings. All of them were useless. But there was one more thing to do. I opened the Savings and Investments menu. There were 3 certificates of deposit with a total value of nearly $150,000 deposits we had created together for our future, as he used to say. There was also a stock investment account whose value fluctuated but was around $90,000. As a co-owner of the account, I had the right to request an emergency liquidation, an option we had enabled when opening the account years ago in case of an urgent need, according to him. Well, this was very urgent. I initiated the process to liquidate the first CD. The system asked for verification by sending a code to my mobile number, which was registered as the primary contact. The code arrived, I entered it, and the process began. Request for CD liquidation in process. Estimated fund deposit, 1 business day. Perfect. I continued with the second and third CDs. The process was the same. In a matter of minutes, all our savings were queued for liquidation. Ethan wouldn't find out until he checked himself, and by then, it would be too late. As for the stock investment account, I couldn't liquidate it immediately due to holding regulations, but I could do something more strategic. I changed the investment instructions from aggressive to very conservative, moving all positions from growth stocks to money market funds with minimal returns. Not to lose money, but to ensure Ethan couldn't easily access the maximum profits from that investment. Done. I leaned back on the bench, feeling the warmth of the phone in my hands after so much use. My chest still felt tight, but now there was something different, something that felt like power. For 7 years, I had always given in, always been understanding, always been the more mature one in every conflict, and what had I received in return? Humiliation, betrayal, treatment as if I were worthless. No more. My phone vibrated. It was an email notification from the bank, confirming all the transactions I had just made. I read it again, making sure everything was correctly recorded. Transfer of $75,250 to personal account of Amelia Clark. Successful. Block on credit card ending in 4,521. Successful. And so on for all 5 cards. Liquidation of CD1. In process. Liquidation of CD2. In process. Liquidation of CD3. In process. Change of investment profile. Successful. Perfect. I looked at the restaurant building from a distance. From there, I could see the large dining room windows, the silhouettes of people enjoying their meal. Somewhere in there, Ethan and Madison were still absorbed in their world. Still laughing, still planning their future with money that no longer existed. I imagined what would happen next, perhaps in an hour or sooner if they ordered more. They would finish their meal, satisfied with the luxury food and expensive wine. Ethan would call the waiter with his typical arrogant gesture, asking for the bill with complete confidence. Then he would hand over his credit card, the card he believed was unlimited, the card that for him was a symbol of his success, and the card reader would beep, denied. He would try again, thinking it was a system error. Denied. Again. The second card. The third. The fourth. All denied. Panic would begin to set in. He would check his phone, open the banking app, and see the joint account balance. Almost zero. He would be confused, furious, frustrated, searching for an explanation as to why all his money had suddenly disappeared. And in that moment, he would realize that his wife, whom he had just humiliated, whom he had shamed in front of his mistress, whom he considered insignificant, was the one who held the real control over all his financial assets. I smiled faintly, imagining the look on his face, a face that would turn from arrogance to panic, from confidence to shame, from superiority to powerlessness. "Mrs. Clark?" I was startled. A young waiter from the restaurant was standing in front of me with a small tray and a glass of cold lemonade. "Sorry to startle you, ma'am," he said politely. "The maitre d' and I saw you out here alone and brought you a drink. It's a courtesy of the restaurant." "Oh, thank you so much," I said, accepting the glass, grateful for the unexpected gesture. "You're very kind." The waiter smiled, but his eyes showed concern. "Are you all right, ma'am? It's just that before, you seemed—" "Forgive me, it's none of my business. But if you need any help—" He didn't finish the sentence, but his intention was clear. Did they know something was wrong at that table? Perhaps they overheard part of the conversation, or maybe it was just the intuition that comes from witnessing all sorts of drama in a luxury restaurant. "I'm fine," I replied with a sincere smile. "In fact, I think I just made the best decision of my life." The waiter nodded slowly. Although his face still reflected doubt, he gave a slight bow and returned inside the restaurant. I took a sip of the lemonade, feeling the cool, tart flavor balancing the bitter taste in my mouth. In the distance, the sky was beginning to change color. Sunset was approaching, creating a beautiful gradient of oranges and golds. For the first time in months, I felt I could take a deep breath. My phone vibrated again. This time it was a message from Ethan. "Where did you go? Did you leave already?" "Well, whatever." Dry, cold, not asking if I was okay, without a shred of guilt for what he had just done. Just an indifferent message confirming that to him, I no longer meant anything. I didn't reply. Let him enjoy his last moments of glory with Madison. Let them laugh, joke, plan their life of luxury. Let Ethan feel like a winner, like the successful man who could discard his wife and immediately get a younger, better woman, because in less than an hour, reality would slap them both with brutal force. And I would be here, enjoying my cold lemonade while I waited for the show to begin. I put the phone back in my handbag. I wouldn't receive any emergency calls or messages from Ethan because I had already silenced his notifications. Let him panic alone. Let him feel what it's like to have no one when you need help, just as I had felt for so long. I finished the lemonade to the last drop and got up from the bench. The valet, who was still at his post, approached when he saw me. "My car, please," I said, handing him the ticket. "Right away, ma'am." While I waited, I looked back towards the restaurant. Its large windows now reflected the sunset's light, creating a beautiful but blinding golden glare. I couldn't see clearly what was happening inside, but it didn't matter. I didn't need to see it, because I knew exactly what was going to happen. And for the first time in 7 years of marriage, I was the one in control. I was the one writing the end of this story. My car arrived. I got in with elegance and closed the door softly. Before driving away, I took one last look at the restaurant building. The building that once held sweet memories was now a witness to the destruction of a marriage that had been broken for a long time. "Enjoy your meal, Ethan," I whispered with a smile, "because it'll be the most expensive one of your life." And with that, I pressed the accelerator, leaving the Sterling view behind, leaving a painful past behind, and driving towards a future that finally belonged to me. Meanwhile, inside the Sterling view, the atmosphere at the corner table had changed. Ethan was leaning back leisurely in his chair, one hand holding a half-full glass of wine and the other toying with his phone, scrolling aimlessly while laughing at something on the screen. "Honey, look at this," Ethan said to Madison, showing her a picture of a metallic red luxury sports car. "What do you think if we get this one? It's a limited edition, only 5 in the whole country." Madison let out a little squeal, her eyes shining as she saw the photo. "Oh my God, seriously, Ethan, that's my dream car. But it must cost a fortune, right?" $350,000, more or less, Ethan replied casually, as if talking about spare change. "But it's fine. It's also an investment. The value of a car like this just keeps going up. Besides, I want to give you the best." Madison took his hand on the table, holding it with both of hers while putting on a face of fake emotion. "Ethan, you're perfect. I can't believe I met such an incredible man. I mean rich, handsome, and romantic." "Of course," Ethan smiled with pride. "That's why I told you from the beginning, you're so different from her. You understand me. You support my dreams, and most importantly, you're on my level. You're not a dead weight." The waiter returned with dessert, a chocolate lava cake with vanilla ice cream and raspberry coulis served on a white plate with an artistic decoration of cocoa powder and edible flowers. The aroma of warm chocolate filled the air, whetting their appetites. "This is our signature dessert, sir," the waiter said politely. "Our pastry chef prepares it to order, so the liquid chocolate inside flows perfectly." "Perfect," Ethan nodded, satisfied. "Oh, and the wine is running low. Bring us another bottle, the same one, the 2009 Chateau Margaux." The waiter hesitated for a moment. A bottle of that wine cost over $1,500. 2 bottles would exceed $3,000, just on wine. But seeing Ethan's confidence, he simply nodded. "Of course, sir. I'll prepare it right away." As soon as the waiter left, Madison cut into the lava cake with a spoon, and the molten chocolate oozed out perfectly. So good, honey. You have to try it." Ethan opened his mouth and accepted the bite from Madison, looking into her eyes with passion. "It's good, but not as good as you." Madison let out a silly giggle and playfully slapped his arm. "You're such a flirt." "A flirt, but an honest one," Ethan said, moving his chair closer to hers and wrapping his arm possessively around her waist. "I'm serious, Madison. Since I met you, my life has more color. It's not as monotonous as it used to be. Every day is exciting, full of surprises and adventures. This is living." "I love you too," Madison said, resting her head on his shoulder for a moment. An intimate gesture that drew disapproving glances from the next table, but they didn't care. "That's why I can't wait for you to be an officially single man. Then we can be freer without having to hide. Not much longer, Ethan whispered in her ear. The lawyer has everything ready. The divorce agreement just needs her signature. In 2 months, at most, we can be together officially. And then we'll get married and go on a honeymoon to the Maldives or Switzerland. Which do you prefer? Both, Madison replied enthusiastically. First the Maldives to scuba dive and relax on the beach, and then Switzerland to ski. Oh, and we'll stay in a hotel with private villas, okay? The kind with an infinity pool and spectacular views. I've seen it on Instagram. It's amazing. Done, Ethan said, giving her a fleeting kiss on the forehead. I'll give you everything you want. Besides, I was already planning to expand the business to Europe, so we can use the trip to scout locations for a new branch. You can come to my meetings so you can better understand my business world. Wow. I'll be a wife and a business partner, Madison said, looking at him with shining eyes. Ethan, do you really want to involve me in your business? Of course, Ethan replied with conviction. You're smart, you have good connections, and you understand the world of luxury. All of that is very valuable to my company. Not like others who only understand kitchens and laundry. They laughed together, a carefree, happy laugh, as if there was nothing wrong with their situation, as if betraying a 7-year marriage was a normal thing to celebrate. The waiter returned with the second bottle of wine, opened it professionally, and poured a small amount into Ethan's glass for him to taste. Ethan took a sip, letting the red liquid dance in his mouth before swallowing. Perfect, he commented briefly. The waiter filled both glasses and placed the bottle in an ice bucket next to the table. Will there be anything else, sir? Ethan glanced at the menu one last time. Bring us a premium cheese board, the one with truffles. And do you have Dom Perignon? Yes, sir. We have the 2008 or the 2012 vintage. The 2008, Ethan replied without hesitation. A small bottle to finish. Of course, sir. The waiter bowed and left. Madison looked at Ethan with a mixture of admiration and disbelief. Honey, are you sure? That's so expensive. I read that a vintage Dom Perignon can cost thousands of dollars a bottle. Relax, Ethan said, patting her hand confidently. Today is a special day. It's like our celebration, a celebration that I finally had the courage to leave the past behind and start the life I truly want. So, it's worth it. You're the best, Ethan, Madison said, giving him a quick kiss on the cheek. I'm so lucky I found you. I should be the one saying that, Ethan replied, looking at her intensely. You are the best gift I've ever received. Beautiful, sexy, intelligent, ambitious, a complete package. Not like others, so dull, with no passion for life, no dreams. Poor thing, really, Madison said with false sympathy, but with her eyes sparkling with joy. But oh well, what can you do? Not everyone is capable of improving. Some people just get stuck in their comfort zone. They don't want to evolve, and that's why they get left behind in the end. Ethan nodded. Exactly. I've told her 1,000 times, get your act together, learn new things, introduce me to your circle of friends. But she preferred to stay at home and expected me to be content with that monotonous life. Impossible. The cheese board arrived, a large wooden platter with a selection of artisanal cheeses from various regions, artistically presented with crackers, dried fruits, honey, and, of course, an aged cheddar infused with black truffle whose price was exorbitant. The aroma was intense and distinctive. Here it is, Ethan exclaimed, picking up a piece of the truffled cheese, placing it on a cracker, and feeding it to Madison. Try this. It's very exclusive. The cheese is directly imported, and the truffle is top quality. Madison chewed slowly, her eyes wide. Oh my God, it's delicious. It has a very intense flavor with earthy notes from the truffle. Ethan, you really know your fine dining, huh? Of course, I have many business dinners with international clients, Ethan replied proudly. They appreciate that I understand wine pairings, cheeses, table manners. It's all part of the professional image. That's why I always say that in the world of high-level business, it's not just about skill, but how you present yourself. Totally agree, Madison nodded enthusiastically. Image is everything. That's why I always take care of my appearance. I stay up to date with the latest trends and network at luxury events because our circle has to be on the same level. You can't have one person being upper class and the other, well, from the common crowd. They continued to eat leisurely, talking about their future plans. Which penthouse they would buy after getting married, what other cars they would collect, which countries they would visit on their honeymoon. They even talked about the kind of wedding they wanted. "I want a garden wedding," Madison said excitedly, with an elegant and romantic theme. Lots of fresh imported flowers, spectacular lighting, a live jazz band, and my dress has to be from a famous designer, custom made so I'm the center of attention. "Approved," Ethan nodded without hesitation. "Unlimited budget for our wedding. I want everyone to know that it's not just any wedding, it's the wedding of two people who fit. Who are on the same level, who were destined to be together." The Dom Perignon arrived in a luxurious ice bucket with 2 cut crystal champagne flutes. The waiter uncorked it with an elegant pop and carefully poured the golden, bubbling liquid. "For the sir and madam," he said politely, even though he knew Madison was not Ethan's legal wife. But in the world of hospitality, the customer is always right. Ethan raised his glass, and Madison followed suit. "Cheers," Ethan said, "to our future, to a better life, to freeing ourselves from a past that tied us down." "Cheers," Madison replied, clinking her glass against his, producing a melodious crystal chime. They took a slow sip, enjoying the soft bubbles, the complex and refined taste of a champagne whose price was equivalent to the monthly salary of an average worker. "Perfect," Ethan said, closing his eyes for a moment to savor it. "This is the life. This is succeeding in life." Madison smiled, satisfied, and took Ethan's hand on the table again. Around them, the restaurant was beginning to fill up with the dinner crowd. Live music started to play, a soft piano melody that created a perfect romantic atmosphere. For Ethan and Madison, this was the peak of their happiness. They felt like winners, free, with a brilliant future ahead. They didn't know that in less than 30 minutes, their world would come crashing down, and the fall would happen in this very place, in this luxurious restaurant, in front of all the customers, in front of the same staff who were now serving them with such respect. But for now, they remained immersed in the euphoria of a false victory, still laughing, planning, feeling triumphant, unaware that ruin was waiting just around the corner. The hour flew by. Ethan and Madison were still engrossed in their conversation, laughing loudly from time to time, oblivious to the stares of other diners. The second bottle of wine was nearly empty, only crumbs remained of the cheese board, and they had finished the Dom Perignon to the last drop. "Ugh, I'm so full," Madison said, leaning back in her chair and patting her stomach, slightly bloated after the lavish meal, "but so happy. This has been one of the best meals of my life." "And this is just the beginning, darling." Ethan smiled, satisfied. "Once we're officially together, every day can be like this. Luxury dinners, trips, shopping, anything you want." Madison picked up her purse from the chair and opened a small mirror to touch up her makeup. Her red lipstick had faded slightly, so she reapplied it with quick, expert strokes. "I'm so happy with today. The food was delicious. The place is spectacular, and most importantly, I loved how you handled the situation earlier. Firm, direct, no beating around the bush. That's how it should be." "Exactly," Ethan said, picking up his phone from the table to check the time. "It's already 4:30. We've been here for quite a while. Shall we head to the shopping district? You said you wanted to look at handbags." "Okay," Madison exclaimed, excited again, her eyes sparkling. "I already have a list of brands I want to check out. Oh, and honey, can I get a pair of shoes too? I saw some limited edition ones on Instagram yesterday that were gorgeous." "Get whatever you want," Ethan replied generously. "Consider it a gift for your patience with me." "I love you so much," Madison said, giving him another kiss on the cheek, leaving a red lipstick mark. Ethan laughed and wiped the mark with the back of his hand, then he raised his hand to call a waiter. "Excuse me, the check, please." A young waiter approached politely. "Right away, sir." While they waited, Ethan and Madison planned their shopping route, discussing which stores to visit first, how much time to spend in each, and where they would have dinner that night. The waiter returned with an elegant black leather folder containing the bill. He placed it carefully in front of Ethan. "Here you are, sir." Ethan opened the folder with a casual air. His eyes scanned the total at the bottom. The figure was $5,250.75. Over $5,000 for a meal for three, or rather for two, since I had only ordered water. But for Ethan, that figure was no problem. He was used to such bills, and even larger ones. He took his premium leather wallet out of his pocket and extracted a platinum credit card with a $20,000 limit, his trusted card for all major transactions. "Charge it to this," he said, handing over the card with confidence, without looking at the bill again. The waiter took the card and went to the register. Ethan turned his attention back to Madison, who was busy looking at Instagram and showing him pictures of the designer bags she wanted to buy. "Do you like this one?" Madison asked, showing him a photo of a pastel pink Hermes Birkin. "It's beautiful, it suits you," Ethan replied, nodding. "How much is it?" "Around $15,000, Madison answered matter-of-factly, as if talking about spare change. "But it's limited edition, so it's also an investment. If I sell it later, the price will surely go up." "All right, we'll look for it later," Ethan replied, though inwardly he was a bit taken aback by the figure, $15,000 for a handbag. But he didn't want to seem hesitant in front of Madison. He had to maintain his image as a rich and generous man. A few minutes passed, and the waiter who had taken the card still hadn't returned. Ethan started to feel a bit restless but tried to stay calm. Maybe the system is slow, he thought, or they need extra confirmation for such a large transaction. Finally, the waiter returned, but his expression was strange. It wasn't his usual professional smile. There was doubt in his eyes. "Excuse me, sir," he said in a low voice, almost a whisper. "It seems there's a problem with the card. The transaction has been declined." "Declined?" Ethan frowned, confused. "Declined? That's impossible. That card has a $20,000 limit. It can't be." "It must be a system error, sir. Do you have another card we could try?" The waiter tried to explain as diplomatically as possible. Madison looked at Ethan, puzzled. "Honey, what's wrong?" Nothing's wrong," Ethan replied quickly, trying to reassure her while taking out his wallet again. "It's surely a system error. Banks mess up sometimes." He took out a second card, a black credit card with a $50,000 limit that he rarely used, reserving it for very large transactions. "Try this one." The waiter took the card and went back to the register. Ethan tried to look calm, but his heart was starting to beat a little faster. This was strange, very strange. He had used the first card just last week without any issues. "Ethan, are you sure nothing's wrong?" Madison asked, now a little worried. "I'm sure," Ethan smiled forcedly. "Trust me, it's just a technical issue." But the waiter returned again with an even more uncomfortable expression than before. He even seemed to be sweating a little. "I'm very sorry, sir. This card has also been declined." Declined again. Now Ethan started to panic, though he tried to hide it. 2 declined cards in a row. This wasn't a technical issue. Something was very wrong. "One moment," Ethan said, picking up his phone with a slightly trembling hand. He tried to open the banking app, but a notification on the screen made his blood run cold. Credit card ending in 4,521 has been blocked by the primary account holder. Credit card ending in 7,834 has been blocked by the primary account holder. Blocked? By whom? The primary account holder was Amelia, their joint account. The additional cards were all under the joint account they had created years ago. With trembling hands, he opened the app, entered his password, and checked the joint account. Balance, $4.73. $4.73. Ethan stared at the screen, incredulous. It couldn't be. Just this morning the balance was over $75,000. Where had it gone? What had happened? He scrolled down the transaction history, and there it was, written clearly. Transfer to the account of Amelia Clark, $75,250 at 1:47 p.m. Amelia had taken all the money. Amelia had blocked all his cards. Amelia Amelia had done all this while he was humiliating her in this very restaurant. "Sir," the waiter called again, this time more firmly. "Do you have another card, or would you prefer to pay in cash?" Cash. Ethan never carried that much cash. Who carries over $5,000 in their wallet? Madison was starting to realize something was seriously wrong. "Ethan, you're pale. What's going on?" "Just a moment, Madison," Ethan whispered tensely. He checked his phone again, trying a third, a fourth card. They all showed the same status. Blocked. The waiter was still there, waiting patiently, but his face was starting to show concern. Some diners at nearby tables began to look in their direction, noticing that something was amiss. "Sir, excuse me," the waiter said again, this time with a sterner tone. "Can you settle the payment? If not, I'll have to inform the manager." Wait a moment," Ethan said, raising his hand. He tried to call Amelia, the number he had been ignoring all day, but the phone didn't ring. Once, twice, 3 times. It went straight to voicemail. "Amelia, pick up, he almost screamed internally. Madison was now very nervous. "Ethan, you're seriously worrying me. What is the problem?" "It's her," Ethan muttered, unable to believe what was happening. "She took all the money. She blocked all my cards. It was her." "Her what?" Madison almost shouted, catching herself at the last second. "What do you mean she took the money? What money?" From the joint account, Ethan replied in a hoarse voice. "She transferred the entire balance to her account. $75,000. It's gone. It's all gone." Madison stared at him with wide eyes, a mixture of surprise and rage. $75,000? And you told me she was just a simple housewife, that she didn't matter, that she had nothing. Now several diners were staring at them directly. The whispers started to become audible. The atmosphere, which was once romantic and pleasant, had turned into a nightmare. And the waiter was still there, waiting for payment of a bill over $5,000, a bill that Ethan now had no idea how to pay. "Sir," the waiter said again, this time in a very formal and cold tone, "I must call our manager. Please wait a moment." And with that, he turned and walked quickly towards the register. Ethan remained petrified in his chair. His face was pale, and a cold sweat began to bead on his forehead. All the confidence he had shown earlier had shattered. And worst of all, this was just the beginning of his true ruin. The minutes that followed felt like hours. Ethan remained rigid in his chair, his phone still clutched in his sweaty hand. He called Amelia again, without success. He sent a message in all caps. "Amelia, pick up the phone. It's urgent." But the message was only delivered, read, and ignored. Madison looked at Ethan with an expression that was beginning to change. It was no longer admiration or love, but something more akin to disappointment, perhaps even disgust. "So now you don't have a single dollar?" Madison asked in a low but sharp voice. "I mean, all your money was in that account?" "No, that's not it," Ethan tried to explain, running a frustrated hand over his face. "I have other assets, a penthouse, stocks, savings, but they're not liquid right now. I need time to sell them." "But right now, you can't pay for this," Madison said, pointing to the folder with the bill still open on the table. Ethan didn't answer. The answer was obvious. Footsteps approached. A man in his 40s, with an impeccable black suit and a nameplate reading Daniel Manager, walked up to their table. His face was professional but firm, his smile polite but without warmth. "Good afternoon, Mr. Hamilton," Daniel greeted formally. "I'm Daniel, the restaurant manager. I've been informed there's a small issue with the payment." Ethan tried to sit up straight, attempting to regain his composure. "Yes, it seems there's a technical problem with my credit cards. The bank's system must be down." "I understand, sir," Daniel nodded calmly. "These things happen sometimes. Do you have an alternative method of payment? A debit card? A bank transfer? Or cash?" "The debit card won't work either," Ethan replied, his voice flat. "My main account is blocked, but I can make a transfer later, once this is sorted out." "I'm sorry, sir," Daniel interrupted, polite but firm. "The restaurant's policy requires payment to be made immediately after the service. We cannot defer it or accept IOUs." The diners at the nearest tables were no longer hiding their curiosity. They were staring directly at their table. The whispers grew louder. That's the guy who ordered all the expensive stuff. Wow, looks like he can't pay. How embarrassing. And in front of his girlfriend. Madison heard the whispers, and her face flushed red with either anger or shame. "Ethan," she hissed urgently. "Do something. Now. I will not be humiliated here." "I'm trying," Ethan retorted in a low but tense voice. He looked at his banking app again, searching for any other account he might have forgotten, but all accounts linked to the joint one showed the same status: funds transferred or cards blocked. He remembered the CDs. Yes, the certificates of deposit. He had 3 of them, worth nearly $150,000. He could do an emergency liquidation. With trembling fingers, he opened the savings menu in the app, and his eyes widened in horror when he saw the status of all of them. CD001. Liquidation in process at the request of the account holder Amelia Clark. CD002. Liquidation in process at the request of the account holder Amelia Clark. CD003. Liquidation in process at the request of the account holder Amelia Clark. Amelia. Again, Amelia. She had done it all. She had taken the cash, blocked the cards, and even liquidated their savings. She had planned everything calmly, with pinpoint precision. And Ethan had just realized that the woman he had humiliated, the one he had scorned, the one he had considered insignificant, was the woman who, all this time, had held total control over his finances. Daniel was still standing there, waiting patiently, but his face was starting to show strain. "Well, sir, have you found a solution?" I can call my brother," Ethan finally said, his voice barely a whisper. His pride had completely crumbled. He had to ask for help. He had to admit he couldn't pay for his own meal. "Go ahead, sir," Daniel conceded, but he didn't move an inch. He would wait until the problem was resolved. Ethan called his brother, Ryan, a successful businessman with whom he wasn't very close, because Ethan had always been the more superior one. The phone rang several times before he answered. "Hello, Ethan. What's up?" Ryan's voice came through. "Ryan, I need help," Ethan whispered, trying to keep the other diners from hearing. "I'm in a jam. Can you transfer me some money right now? It's urgent." "Urgent? Why? With how loaded you are, you need to borrow money?" Ryan's voice sounded skeptical. "Don't ask questions. I need $5,000 right now. Transfer it to my account or to the restaurant's account number. I'll send you the details." There was a silence. $5,000? For what? "Please, Ryan, I'm in a difficult situation. I'll explain later. Just transfer it now. I promise I'll pay you back in a week." Ryan sighed on the other end. "All right, but this is the last time. Don't make a habit of asking. I'm transferring it now. Hold on." "Thank you. Thank you so much," Ethan said, hanging up the phone, relieved, though his face was still pale. Daniel was still there. "You're making a transfer, sir?" "Yes, my brother is doing it right now. Just a moment, please," Ethan replied, wiping the sweat from his forehead with a napkin. While they waited, the atmosphere at the table was unbearable. Madison sat with her arms crossed, looking away with an angry expression. She glanced at her phone from time to time, as if looking for an excuse to flee. "Madison," Ethan tried, reaching for her hand. Madison snatched it away abruptly. "Don't touch me." "Madison, please. It's not my fault. It's all her fault." "Her fault?" Madison snapped, staring at him. "You told me she was a simple housewife who didn't understand anything, and it turns out she's the one who controls all your money. She has access to all your accounts, and you can't even pay for a meal without asking for help." Those words hit Ethan harder than a physical slap, because they were true. He had been too confident, too sure that he was in control. But all this time, it was Amelia who had truly held the reins. Ethan's phone buzzed. A notification from the banking app. Transfer received from Ryan Hamilton. $5,000. "It's here," Ethan said to Daniel quickly. "My brother's transfer has arrived. Can I transfer it to the restaurant's account now?" "Very well, sir. Please transfer to this account number," Daniel said, handing him a business card with the restaurant's banking details. Ethan made the transfer with trembling hands. $5,250.75 to the restaurant's account. The transfer successful notification appeared on the screen. "It's done," Ethan said, showing the screen to Daniel. Daniel checked his own phone, receiving confirmation from the register that the funds had arrived. "Thank you, sir." "The payment has been received," he said, giving a slight bow, but with a look that betrayed his judgment. A judgment towards the man who had been so arrogant before and had now fallen into absolute humiliation. As soon as Daniel left, Ethan slumped in his chair as if he had run out of energy. Some diners were still watching and whispering disapprovingly. "Let's go," Madison said, suddenly standing up and grabbing her purse in a hurry. "I can't stand another second here." "Madison, wait." "Wait for what?" she spat, looking at him coldly. "For you to be humiliated even more?" "Thanks, Ethan, but I'm not interested in being part of your drama." "What do you mean?" Ethan said, standing up too and trying to take her hand. "I mean," Madison said, pulling her hand away sharply, "that I made the wrong choice. I thought you were a successful man who had it all. Turns out, you're just a man with a wife who's smarter than you, and now you have nothing." Those words pierced Ethan's heart. "Madison, don't say that. This is just temporary. I'll fix it. I'll get all that money back, I promise you." "Promise?" Madison laughed cynically. "You also promised you'd buy me everything I wanted, and it turns out you can't even pay for a meal." "I'm very sorry, Ethan. I'm not interested in men who have to ask their brother for money to pay a restaurant bill." And with that, Madison turned and walked away, the sound of her heels echoing on the marble floor. Some diners watched her go, others chuckled as they witnessed the drama unfold. Ethan was left standing there alone, in the middle of the luxurious restaurant that, an hour before, had been the stage for his triumph. Now, that same place was the witness to his most humiliating downfall. His phone vibrated again, a message from Amelia. Just one short sentence. "Now this is class, Ethan. Enjoy your freedom." Ethan stared at the screen with glassy eyes. All his arrogance, his false confidence, his wonderful plans for the future, it had all crumbled in an instant. And the most painful part was the certainty that he himself had destroyed it all. He had underestimated the woman who had always supported him. He had forgotten that behind every successful man there is sometimes a much more intelligent woman, a woman who quietly holds the real control. And now he had lost everything. The money, the woman, the pride, all lost in one humiliating afternoon at the Sterling View. Ethan remained standing, paralyzed by the table, watching Madison's back as she walked towards the restaurant's exit. Seconds later, the large glass door closed, and the figure of the blonde woman vanished from his sight, disappearing from his life as quickly as she had entered it. "Sir, is there anything else we can help you with?" Daniel's voice snapped him out of his trance. Ethan turned to see the manager still nearby, his face professional and unreadable. Behind him, several waiters stood with trays in hand, ready to clear the table, waiting for Ethan to leave so they could continue their work. "No, thank you," Ethan replied in a hoarse voice. He grabbed his jacket from the back of the chair and put it on clumsily. His trembling hands made the simple gesture seem like an impossible task. As he turned to leave, his steps faltered. At the next table, a middle-aged couple watched him as they sipped their wine, a look of pity and reproach in their eyes, along with a hint of satisfaction at seeing someone so arrogant fall. "Poor man," the woman whispered to her husband, but loud enough for Ethan to hear. "He seemed so smug before. And look at him now. Serves him right for cheating," her husband replied sententiously. "In the end, everyone gets what they deserve." Ethan clenched his fists, holding back the rage and shame that consumed him, but he could do nothing. He had no right to protest. He was the one to blame. He had brought all of this upon himself. He continued his walk to the exit, but every step was an ordeal, as if he were dragging a weight of several tons. The whispers from other tables followed him like ghosts. "That's the one who was shouting earlier that his wife had no class. Karma's quick, huh? The girlfriend dumped him right there. She was only interested in his money." How pathetic. The hostess, who had greeted him so warmly before, now only offered a forced, professional smile devoid of warmth. "Thank you for your visit, sir. Have a good day." Ethan just nodded, not daring to meet her eyes. He knew that the entire restaurant staff now knew his story. They knew he couldn't pay, that he had to ask for help, that his girlfriend had abandoned him with contempt. This story would become the gossip of the day. Maybe tomorrow or the day after, the story would spread to other restaurants, to the high society circles that frequented places like this, and the name Ethan Hamilton, the name he was once so proud of, would become a laughingstock. The glass door opened automatically. A gust of afternoon air hit his face, but instead of refreshing him, it suffocated him. He walked hesitantly towards the parking lot, looking for his car, a metallic black BMW 7 Series that had always been his pride. The valet approached with the keys. "Your car is ready, sir." Ethan took the keys, but his hands were shaking so much he almost dropped them. The valet caught them in mid-air. "Are you all right, sir?" the young man asked with genuine concern. "Yes, I'm fine," Ethan lied. Nothing about his situation was fine. He got into the car and slammed the door shut. Alone in the luxurious interior that once made him feel superior, he now only felt an immense void. His phone vibrated again. A message from Ryan. "Ethan, what the hell happened? What do you mean you need money to pay at a restaurant? Did you have a fight with Amelia? Fix your marital problems. Don't embarrass the family." Embarrass the family. Words that cut him deeply. Ethan didn't reply. He threw the phone onto the passenger seat in frustration. He rested his head on the steering wheel, his breathing ragged. All his wonderful plans, the honeymoon in the Maldives and Switzerland, the $350,000 sports car, the luxury wedding with an unlimited budget, now sounded like a stupid joke. He couldn't even pay for his own meal. A bitter laugh escaped his throat, an ironic, pathetic laugh, full of regret. His phone buzzed again. This time, an unknown number. He answered it listlessly. "Hello, good afternoon, Mr. Hamilton. I'm calling from Central Bank, from the credit card department. We wanted to confirm the block on 5 credit cards in your name, placed by the co-owner of the account, Mrs. Amelia Clark. Were you aware of this?" Ethan was silent. So now it was official. Even the bank was calling to confirm. "Yes, I was aware," he replied flatly. "Understood, sir. To reactivate the cards, you will need to visit a branch in person with the co-owner of the account or with a signed authorization from her. Would you—" "That won't be necessary," Ethan interrupted. "Thank you." He hung up before the bank employee could finish. "Go with Amelia or ask her for authorization." Impossible. Amelia would never help him now. She would probably laugh at his request. He started the car's engine but didn't move. He looked at the building of the Sterling View in the rearview mirror. The building that, an hour before, had been the stage for his triumph, the place where he had boasted about his new and better life. Now, that building was a monument to his most shameful defeat. His phone vibrated again. This time, a notification from a social media network. Someone had tagged him in a video. With a bad feeling, Ethan opened the app. The video had been secretly recorded by one of the restaurant's diners. You couldn't see who was filming, but the angle captured the moment Ethan was standing with a pale face, talking to Daniel. Then, the moment Madison stood up and abandoned him. The video's caption read, "The arrogant guy who was showing off his mistress and humiliating his wife, turns out he can't pay the restaurant bill. Karma is real. Number instant karma number. Cheater number humiliated." The video already had nearly 10,000 views in less than half an hour. The comments were pouring in. "Wow, no wonder his wife left him. Good for her. That's what you get for cheating. You get humiliated in the end. The girl noped out of there real quick, huh? Only in it for the money. LOL. Who is this guy? He looks familiar. I know him. That's Ethan Hamilton, a businessman who's always showing off on Instagram. What a downfall." The name Ethan Hamilton was starting to circulate. People were recognizing him. The story was going viral. With trembling hands, Ethan tried to untag himself from the video, but it was too late. The video had already been shared in various group chats, reposted on other platforms, and had even reached gossip forums. Ethan slammed his fist on the steering wheel several times, venting a rage and frustration he could no longer contain. Everything he had built over the years, his reputation as a successful businessman, His image as a solvent and classy man, the respect of his social circle all destroyed in less than 2 hours by a stupid meal, by an excessive arrogance, by underestimating the woman he should have valued. Another notification came in, this time from his community's group chat, the group of successful young entrepreneurs he was so proud of. Someone had shared the video in the group with the comment, "Guys, this is Ethan, right? What happened, man?" The comments started to flood in. "Seriously, that's Ethan? I don't believe it. Wasn't he the one always bragging about his money? Looks like it's a problem with his wife. I'd heard rumors. What a mess, dude." Ethan left the group, mortified with shame, but leaving a group didn't solve the problem. Notifications kept coming from other groups of friends sending him screenshots of the video, asking, "Is this you? What happened, man?" He turned off his phone's mobile data, unable to see more, but the damage was already done. The story had already spread. And in the digital age, once something goes viral, there's no stopping it. Ethan stared ahead with a vacant expression. His hands still gripped the steering wheel. Although the engine was running, he didn't know where to go. Back to the penthouse? The penthouse that was still full of Amelia's things, of memories of their 7 years of marriage, or to a hotel? But with his credit cards blocked and his account empty, he wasn't even sure he could afford a decent hotel. The phone, with the data off, suddenly rang. A call from the office, his own office. With a bad feeling, he answered. "Hello, Mr. Hamilton. It's Sarah, from finance." His financial assistant's voice sounded strange. "Sorry to bother you, but we've received a notification from the bank that several automatic company transactions made with your corporate credit card have been declined. Is there a problem with the card?" Even the company transactions were affected. Even his job was in jeopardy. "Sarah, for now, use another company card, okay?" "My card is under maintenance," Ethan lied, his voice tired. "Oh, okay, sir, but you have a meeting tomorrow with an important client from Singapore. Is the presentation ready?" A meeting with an important client, a presentation, professionalism. How could he focus on all that when his life was falling apart, when his reputation was in tatters, when a video of him was going viral? "Yes, it's ready. We'll talk about it at the office tomorrow," Ethan replied, ending the conversation quickly. He threw the phone again, this time with more force, until the screen cracked in a corner. Perfect. Even his phone was broken now. Ethan finally stepped on the accelerator and sped out of the restaurant's parking lot, causing the valet and some arriving customers to turn in surprise. But Ethan no longer cared. He just wanted to escape from there, escape from the witnesses of his fall, escape from the place where his arrogance had turned into his shame. As his car sped down the road, Ethan was unaware that somewhere, on the balcony of a quiet penthouse with a beautiful view of the city, Amelia was sitting relaxed with a cup of hot coffee, smiling faintly as she read the notification of the transfer that had just arrived in her account, $75,250. The fruit of her work over 7 years, the fruit of a patience that had finally yielded its just rewards. And for the first time in months, Amelia slept soundly with a smile on her lips, her heart at peace, and her soul finally free. Meanwhile, on the other side of the city, Ethan sat alone in his car, parked on a dark street, staring into the void with a shattered heart and an uncertain future. And the most bitter lesson he learned that night was that you should never underestimate a silent woman, because behind her silence, she might be planning her victory. 3 weeks had passed since the incident at the Sterling View, 3 weeks that had changed everything. That afternoon, Amelia sat peacefully on the balcony of her new apartment, a medium-sized one-bedroom with a minimalist, modern interior and a beautiful city view from the 20th floor. It wasn't as luxurious as the place she had lived in with Ethan, but there was something different here. There was warmth, peace, a genuine sense of belonging. It was her space, entirely hers, without the shadows of a painful past. Amelia sipped coffee from her favorite white ceramic mug while watching the sunset, a gradient of orange, pink, and purple that painted the sky beautifully. The gentle evening breeze ruffled her loose hair. Her phone on the small table vibrated. A notification, but this time it wasn't from Ethan, who was still trying to contact her from different numbers that she systematically blocked. It was a notification from the banking app. Transfer received. $50,000 for liquidation of CD3. Amelia smiled faintly. The last of the savings had been fully liquidated. Added to the balance she already had, her total liquid assets now amounted to nearly $200,000, enough funds to start a new life with stability, maybe even to open the small business she had always dreamed of. But it wasn't the money that made her smile. It was the freedom, the ability to breathe deeply without facing daily humiliations, the feeling that she had finally regained control of her own life. Her phone vibrated again. This time, a call from a known number. Her lawyer, Miss Davis. "Hello, Miss Davis," Amelia greeted in a calm voice. "Amelia, good news," Miss Davis said in a professional but warm tone. "Our divorce petition has been accepted by the court. The first hearing is set for 2 weeks from now, and it looks like the process will be swift. The evidence we have is very strong." This evidence included screenshots of Ethan's conversations with Madison that Amelia had found on their shared laptop months ago, conversations full of affectionate words and future plans. There were also photos of the two of them in various places that Madison had posted on social media with not-so-subtle captions, and of course the viral video from the restaurant, which was now public proof. "Thank you, Miss Davis," Amelia replied. "I'm ready for the hearing. Remember, Amelia," Miss Davis added more seriously, "it's very likely that Ethan's side will try to negotiate the division of assets, especially now that he knows you control most of the liquid funds. You need to be mentally prepared for that." "I am prepared," Amelia replied firmly. "I know my rights, and I'm not going to let him manipulate me anymore." After hanging up, Amelia looked out at the city again. From there, she could see the tall buildings, the bustling streets, the life that never stopped. Life didn't stop for a failed marriage. The world kept spinning, and she had to move forward. Her phone vibrated once more. A message from her best friend, Leah, who had been by her side through the worst moments. "Amelia, have you eaten? I made my special lasagna. Want me to drop some off?" Amelia smiled as she read the message. At least in the midst of her marriage's disaster, she had realized who the people who truly cared about her were. Not for her status or money, but for a sincere friendship. "Of course, I'm on the balcony. Come on up," Amelia replied. 15 minutes later, the doorbell rang. Amelia opened the door to Leah, a woman with a wide smile and 2 containers of still warm food. "Amelia," Leah exclaimed, hugging her tightly. "How are you today? You look better than you did last week." "I'm good, Leah," Amelia replied sincerely. "In fact, better every day." They sat at the small dining table, opened the containers, and began to eat while they chatted. Leah told her about her work, her son who had just started school, the small, simple, but pleasant things of daily life. "Hey, I saw your viral video," Leah said suddenly, cautiously. "Well, not your video, but the one from the restaurant. People are really supporting you. Many are saying you're brilliant, smart, and inspiring." Amelia chuckled. "Honestly, I never expected it to go viral. I just wanted to take back what was mine. I wanted to show him that I'm not a weak woman he can just look down on." "And you succeeded," Leah said, taking her hand warmly. "Amelia, I'm so proud of you. I used to see you crying over him because he wouldn't come home, and now you're smiling again. You're standing on your own 2 feet. That's not easy." "Thank you, Leah," Amelia replied, squeezing her hand. "You're also one of the reasons I've been strong. You've always been there when I needed you." They continued to eat in a warm atmosphere. When they finished, Leah helped her clear the table and wash the dishes. Though Amelia protested, Leah insisted on helping. "Oh, Amelia," Leah said as she dried her hands. "Yesterday I ran into an old colleague of yours from your previous company. He asked about you. He said they're looking for a freelance consultant for a marketing project. I gave him your contact information. Is that okay? Just in case you're interested." Amelia thought for a moment. Going back to work. Since she left her job 7 years ago to become a housewife at Ethan's request, she hadn't considered returning to the professional world. But now she was free to choose whatever she wanted. "Of course, Leah," Amelia replied with a smile. "Give him my contact. Who knows, It might be a good opportunity. When Leah left, Amelia returned to the balcony with a cup of hot tea. The sky was now dark. The city lights twinkled like stars on the earth. From this height, everything seemed beautiful, orderly, peaceful. Her phone vibrated. A message from an unknown number. Cautiously, Amelia opened it. "Amelia, it's me. Please, we need to talk. I'm begging you. I was wrong. I'm sorry. Please, pick up the phone or give me a chance to see you. Please." It was Ethan. He had used another number. Amelia looked at the message for a long time. A small part of her heart, the part that had once deeply loved this man, was moved by the words, "I was wrong and I'm sorry." Words that had never come out of Ethan's mouth in their 7 years of marriage. But Amelia had learned her lesson. Regret that only comes after losing everything is not sincere regret, it's just fear of the consequences. With a steady hand, Amelia typed a reply. "Ethan, what happened at the restaurant was the consequence of your own choices. I haven't taken anything that wasn't mine. I've only reclaimed what belonged to me from the beginning. The money in the joint account was mostly from my work before I quit. The savings, we built together. And now, everything is in the right hands. My lawyer will be in contact with yours regarding the divorce. I expect you to cooperate. This is over, Ethan. And I'm okay with that." She pressed send without hesitation and then blocked that number too. There would be no more messages, no more negotiations, no more late apologies. Amelia left the phone on the table, walked to the balcony railing, and spread her arms as if to embrace the entire city. The night wind blew, bringing with it the sweet scent of freedom. "Now this is class, Ethan," she whispered with a victorious smile. Not an arrogant victory, but an elegant and dignified one. Not with shouting and boasting, but with the calm and calculation of someone who knows her worth. And now, it's my turn to live with class. Without you,